If you paused all non-essential spending for the next 7 days, what exact item would you miss first? Most professionals think they know the answer, but they are usually wrong. Today, you will learn a temporary spending pause designed to expose the hidden cash flow leaks driving lifestyle creep. This audit is built specifically for middle class earners whose bank balances flatten out long before the next paycheck arrives. We will isolate fixed overhead, map psychological triggers, and rebuild spending around verified utility. Consider someone with a stable monthly income. They pay rent, utilities, and contribute to savings consistently. Yet every month, money disappears without a clear explanation. When they review their finances after 90 days, the large bills are easy to identify, but the remaining spending becomes a blurry collection of small transactions. These are not dramatic purchases. They are dozens of tiny charges that quietly consume large amounts of capital over time. Imagine 40 small transactions over 30 days, each averaging $15. Individually, they feel harmless. A $10 charge never feels as serious as a $500 charge. Your brain treats every purchase as an isolated event, but 40 transactions at $15 each equals $600 leaving your account. This is not an income problem, it is a visibility problem. Capital leaves in tiny increments, and your brain fails to register the cumulative drain. Most people respond by downloading a budgeting app or building a spreadsheet. They categorize expenses, assign colors, and promise to monitor spending more closely. But tracking occurs after the spending decision has already happened. Tracking is a historical record, not a prevention tool. If engineers discover a leak in a factory, they do not simply document where the fluid lands. They stop the system to identify the failing valve. A no-spend audit is that temporary shutdown. For 7 days, all non-essential spending stops. The objective is not saving a fortune in 1 week. A few $100s will not transform your net worth. The value is informational. By removing impulse spending, every urge becomes visible. You stop acting as a consumer and start acting as an investigator. Hidden habits emerge because every spending desire must be consciously acknowledged. You cannot manage spending you no longer notice. During the audit, you see exactly where attention drops and where automated behaviors take over. Major bills are obvious because they occupy space in your awareness. Mortgage payments, rent drafts, and car loans are highly visible. But once those obligations are paid, people enter the variable spending zone where transactions become smaller, faster, and harder to detect. A $4 app upgrade, a lunch delivery surcharge, or a convenience store purchase rarely creates immediate stress. Because these expenses feel safe, they become invisible. The brain groups them into a vague category called miscellaneous spending. This is where financial clarity disappears. Most professionals underestimate dining and convenience spending by 30 to 50% because they remember major events and forget repeated daily purchases. Budgeting apps cannot solve this perception gap because they depend on reviewing damage after it occurs. Many people stop opening financial apps during high spending weeks because the data creates guilt. The app becomes a source of shame instead of control. To break the cycle, spending habits must collide with a structural barrier. That barrier is the no-spend framework. The purpose is observation, not punishment. When you commit to spending nothing outside fixed obligations for 7 days, every transaction requires an executive decision. You cannot tap your phone automatically. You cannot click checkout while distracted. The friction is intentional. By making spending harder, behavioral patterns become visible. You begin distinguishing genuine needs from automated impulse responses and discover how much money supports habits you barely enjoy. Rule 1 targets autopilot subscriptions. Streaming services, software memberships, and recurring digital products automatically withdraw money every month. Because the payment process is frictionless, the brain categorizes them as utilities rather than choices. The solution is manual validation. Every recurring service that does not keep your lights on or roof overhead must justify its existence every month. Convenience is no longer allowed to make spending invisible. Audit 60 days of bank and credit card statements. Identify every non-essential recurring charge and disable automatic renewal immediately. If you truly value a service next month, manually enter your payment information again. The goal is zero unmonitored subscriptions. Every service must defend itself monthly. If a platform cannot survive without inertia, it does not deserve a permanent position inside your budget. A $15 subscription seems harmless. But combine music services, cloud storage upgrades, premium shipping memberships, streaming platforms, and niche software tools, and the total approaches $100 every month. These charges leave your account whether you use them or not. By forcing manual renewal, corporations must earn your business repeatedly. Hesitation during renewal often reveals expenses surviving entirely because you forgot they existed. Rule 2 targets convenience spending. Delivery platforms, ride-sharing services, and fast shipping systems solve temporary inconveniences. Because the brain seeks the easiest path, paying extra often feels rational after a long day. The problem is not the product itself. The problem is the growing habit of purchasing convenience whenever discomfort appears. Convenience gradually becomes a default response instead of an occasional tool. During the audit, delete delivery, convenience, and fast shipping apps from your primary device. If you want food, prepare it yourself or physically retrieve it. If you want a product, acquire it without premium shortcuts. The measurable target is simple: $0 spent on convenience surcharges and delivery fees. This rule reconnects labor and spending, forcing every purchase to compete against your effort. Convenience rarely costs what people think it costs. A $15 meal can become a $32 transaction after fees, service charges, and tips. Repeating that pattern multiple times each week creates a major cash flow drain. The convenience anesthetic hides the trade-off by making expensive options feel normal. When retrieving the item requires effort, people quickly discover which purchases they genuinely value. Rule 3 targets emotional spending. Retail therapy, browsing sessions, and impulse purchases often function as emotional regulation systems. A stressful day creates discomfort. Buying something new creates a temporary dopamine response. The purchase feels productive, but it is actually masking fatigue, boredom, frustration, or anxiety. Every repeated impulse purchase is solving an emotional problem, not a practical one. Every non-essential purchase enters a mandatory 72-hour quarantine period. Instead of buying the item, write it down in a physical notebook. Record the product, the time, and the emotion you felt. This process separates desire from action. The goal is not suppression. The goal is observation. Most impulses lose power once emotional intensity fades and rational thinking returns. Modern marketplaces are designed to exploit emotional vulnerability. One-click purchases, targeted recommendations, and rapid delivery encourage spending before logic intervenes. The 72-hour delay interrupts that process. When you revisit the notebook days later, many items no longer appear necessary. The emotional trigger has disappeared, revealing the purchase for what it truly was: a temporary distraction rather than a genuine need. Rule 4 targets status spending. Many purchases exist primarily to communicate identity. People buy premium brands, luxury goods, and expensive experiences because of what those items signal to others. Human beings naturally seek validation and belonging. The problem is that status signaling often carries a significant financial premium while providing little additional functional value. During the audit, choose generic and unbranded alternatives whenever possible. Buy store-brand staples instead of premium versions. Select functional options without worrying about appearances. The objective is radical consumer anonymity. By removing status signals, you separate personal worth from external consumption. Many generic alternatives perform the same task while preserving substantially more capital. Identity signaling is one of the most expensive financial habits. Brands charge large premiums because consumers pay for perception as much as performance. The desire to appear successful encourages endless upgrading as social circles become wealthier. Radical anonymity interrupts that cycle. It shifts spending away from image maintenance and toward long-term wealth preservation. Most people believe financial anxiety comes from insufficient income. They assume a raise will eliminate money stress. But higher income without behavioral change simply scales existing inefficiencies. If $600 disappears unnoticed today, a larger salary often creates larger leaks tomorrow. The true leverage point is not income growth. It is retention efficiency. The goal is not spending less. The goal is seeing more. Money problems are often engineering problems rather than math problems. An amateur driver wants a faster engine. An engineer fixes the dragging brake. Hidden spending habits are the financial equivalent of that brake. If identity, convenience, and emotional spending remain unexamined, every future raise fuels lifestyle creep instead of wealth accumulation. The system consumes additional resources without improving outcomes. The 7-day audit proves that daily life can function without constant microtransactions. You learn that convenience purchases are not mandatory, emotional spending is not inevitable, and status spending is not required for self-worth. This realization creates psychological freedom. Financial security no longer depends entirely on earning more money. It depends on understanding how your system behaves under pressure. This week, begin a 7-day no-spend audit and log every urge to spend. This month, review the notebook and classify each urge as value, habit, or emotional response. Cancel at least 2 subscriptions you did not miss. This year, repeat the 7-day audit once every quarter to prevent lifestyle creep from quietly returning. Do not focus on how much money you save. Focus on what you learn. Then ask yourself, what was the hardest thing not to buy?